Sound check one, Mayor's Task Force. Sound check one, November 13, 2024. Sound check one.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's meeting of the City of Hamilton Mayor's Task Force on Transparency, Access, and Accountability. Glad to welcome my fellow task force colleagues back, along with our supporters from SPRC Hamilton Enterprise, and as always, city staff who have continued to support us on the project. So I'd like to call today's meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please confirm that quorum is present?
Quorum is present.
All right, thank you. So I'd like to open today's meeting with our land acknowledgement, which notes that the City of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase of 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the City of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we recognize we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so we can better understand our role as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. And we keep in mind the principles of this land acknowledgement and the intentions as we do our work here on the Mayor's Task Force and discuss our mandate. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Chair Stewart, we have the work plan update that has been distributed, and it will be uploaded to the agenda at the end of the meeting.
Great, thank you for that note and amendment. And with that, may I please have a mover and then a seconder, Joanne, and then Tanashi, to approve the agenda as amended. So the motion is on the table. Any discussion about our agenda for today? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Okay, thank you, everybody. Motion is carried. Are there any declarations of interest? Okay, seeing no declarations of interest noted, we will move on. And moving on to our approval of minutes from the previous meeting from September 18th, 2024, which were distributed. May I have a mover and then a seconder to put the minutes on the floor? Okay, moved by Madeline, second by Tanashi. Any questions, conversation about our September 18 minutes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Everyone is in favor, motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Delegation requests. So we do not have any delegations here today. That is one of the items we'll discuss when we get to our work plan update. So noting that nobody is joining us for that conversation. So with that, we will move on to our discussion items. So today will be a little bit of a lighter meeting as we are fully deployed. We've done a lot of review of all of the information and perspectives and framing and approach to our project. And we are very actively in the midst of engagement right now. So what we're going to take the opportunity to do is walk through the work plan update. We'll have an opportunity just to review where everything is at, any discussions we need to have about any of the items on the work plan update, any amendments to our plan, and we can also discuss just the logistics and timelines going forward. So I think what might be useful to do, referring to our work plan update document, will just be to kind of walk through chronologically and just have an open discussion around each item. So Jesse, maybe I'll turn over to the team at Enterprise to just kind of lead us through a walkthrough.
Excellent, thanks, Mark. So as you had mentioned, as you said, really excited that we are in the thick of all of our engagements and all of our consultations across all the different streams, and really appreciate all the support of the City of Hamilton staff getting advertising off the ground and getting everything into a great shape that we're firing on all cylinders. So starting off, the public consultations on the Engage Hamilton page, which also allows for written submission, sort of ideation, long form text content, as well as the actual answers and survey questions, opened up on November 4th, I believe. This consultation opportunity will be open until December 1st. The Engage page that was set up is quite a fantastic resource, and actually is sort of our kind of collector of information where folks can show up online and find information about the public delegations that are taking place, as well as all the different ways to interact with the process. This, as I said, will be open until December 1st, supported by advertising across some different social channel as well, or a number of different digital channels, as well as print ads that have gone out in the Spectator and some other avenues. Once that information, or once this part of the public consultation is closed, the city will then work to sort of anonymize the data and provide us with all the information and all the different key themes, findings, and data coming out of the report that we'll then be able to take and turn into the final report that will go to council. So everything on this front is going well in terms of trying to build awareness and engagement on the Engage page and that sort of core function. We've also been working to sort of ensure that all councillors' offices, city staff, as well as everyone that's being reached out to for focus groups or other opportunities, are well aware and encouraged to sort of share the link of the Engage page with their own channels. So looking forward to seeing what the uptick is and kind of seeing how that all the information that comes out of that process. I'll stop there on the Engage page and advertising piece and see if anybody has any questions before continuing down the list.
I just heard this morning that we could have delegations beyond the delegation point. So, Madam Clerk, I'm just wondering, how does that happen? So we invite people to come and delegate as much as possible. When that delegation period's over, why would somebody come and delegate later?
Citizens are permitted to delegate at every public meeting that we have. So if you are following the business of the city and you see an agenda or a committee that is for a meeting that's coming up, and there's a subject matter you wish to speak to on that agenda, or something that you wish the committee itself to know, like the task force, you can delegate. So there is no cutoff time for it. This task force wanted to sort of specify 2 special days for delegations, which is absolutely within its purview to do, and we've been working to do that. But delegations can come to any meeting. So while for the entire term of the task force, you can have delegations.
So as decisions are made through this task force, there may be people in the public who may want to delegate at a next meeting and talk about they're a little upset with it, or they think it's fabulous, something like that?
As long as what they're speaking to fits the purview of the task force or subcommittee or standing committee, then absolutely they can come and speak.
So is there something submitted to the committee around why they want to come and delegate? Do we need to know the reason they're delegating?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I understand now.
Like specific reason?
Part of the submission form asks them for the reason.
Wonderful.
So they will specify, yes.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
I just thought we'd have to integrate that into our meetings coming forward, so we should be aware of it.
Yeah, it's a good question, Joanne, and we'll talk later today just about firming up kind of our next couple set of meetings, and we have our work plan. So to your point, Madam Clerk, we made a point to encourage people to come out, and hopefully we'll have some valuable delegations with our next meeting in November, because it'll be right in the middle of our report writing period. But obviously, if there's any valuable perspective delegates want to bring to the process, even if it's in our early part of the new year, then we'll welcome that.
Perfect. Seeing some additional questions, kind of moving on to the next moving piece is the city council interviews. Happy to report that these are going quite well. So at this point, we have scheduled and or have completed interviews with 12 of the 15 council members, 11 of the 15 council members, one that we are currently just in scheduling with, and then three that we might, we'll follow up with at a later date that so far have expressed that they do not have the time or not able to meet, but we will continue to follow up with them as we get a bit closer to the completion of the interview stage and work with partners in the mayor's office and everyone else to try to encourage everyone to participate. But all in all, some really great conversations that are taking place. I would say the bulk of these interviews will be done the week of the 25th. I think we have half of council scheduled for that specific week. But so far ongoing, the conversations have been really good and really open. There's a lot of enthusiasm to engage in the process. We'll stop there a second, or actually maybe what I'll do is I'll just wrap up on the city staff as well. City staff is also going incredibly well. I think at this point we have every member of the senior leadership team has confirmed their participation and has confirmed scheduling with the task force for the one-on-one interview. So all in all, at this point, between city, SLT, and council, we've only had 3 declines, and everyone else has been enthusiastic in their participation. And I'm targeting that we'll have the interview process with city council and city staff wrapped up probably by December 2nd, December 3rd at this point.
Any comments, questions from our group? I'll just comment, I participated in 1 meeting so far, but with that, Councillor, and I expect several others. This is a topic, the topic that we're focused on in our mandate definitely relates to themes that are on our mind. So I think we're going to be getting a lot of valuable information from our internal audience to pair with our external audience. So thank you for keeping on top of all the very active scheduling. Yeah.
Perfect. Next, shifting over to the focus groups that we had identified coming out of the last task force meeting, focusing in on some of the different thematic groups in the city. Invites for these focus groups have gone out with an attempt to get them wrapped up by, I believe, December 9th as the endpoint. Where this landed, just given timing constraints, there's going to be 1 focus group, 1 virtual focus group per each group. And then what we're doing as well, just to ensure that there is a collection of voices in case that schedule does not work, is we are offering one-on-one interviews with folks that were interested in participating, but that date did not work, so we can still ensure that we collect the feedback and collect the information into the process. So all those have theoretically have been scheduled and invites are going out, and then we'll provide updates as we start hearing back from community members on trying to move forward with those dates.
Great. And I know we've been active with ensuring task force members, at least 1, have been joining all the one-on-ones, and we'll arrange as well just to align for the focus groups as well. Yeah, great.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions from the team on the focus group side of the conversation? Perfect. Then maybe Kim, do you want to kick off with the equity deserving focus groups?
Thanks, Jesse. So SPRC will be conducting focus groups with equity deserving members of the community who self-identify. At this point, we're waiting on some confirmations from budget before we do that scheduling, but we are ready to launch once we have that confirmation.
Great. And I think, first time as a group working through this process, so we're just making sure that we have everything aligned with how we're assessing our budget and kind of factors there. But I appreciate the support of the city staff in helping us to make sure that we get that all sorted out and have the focus group scheduled in very soon. Great.
Excellent. Then lastly, we sort of touched on this part already, but with the public delegations, obviously we have the special standalone meeting for the 19th to hopefully encourage and have a number of community members that can come forward with public delegations throughout sort of all of our process and all of our different work streams. We are consistently raising the 19th as an opportunity for folks to also come as another opportunity to share their thoughts and perspectives. So we'll continue to try to advocate for and push for some additional folks to come and share their thoughts. I think throughout this process, something that is having such a broad consultation on transparency, access, and accountability. One thing that is sort of supporting these engagements, I think, and Mark, I think you kind of alluded to this earlier, is that as topical things happen in the community and news comes out, it actually sort of frames some of the conversations that we're having and the thoughts that are coming forward in terms of how the city can improve across these different themes, which I think is quite valuable. Because while we're talking, while we're providing all these different opportunities, and all these opportunities are coming out over the course of the next several weeks, we're able to sort of live capture the frustrations or the commentary from council, from staff, from the public on things that are consistently happening in the community and happening in the news story, which I think will make for a very a very pertinent report at the end of this process that actually kind of captures the dynamic and the thoughts and feelings on these subjects quite well, rather than a consultation process that happens maybe in a quieter time of the year when when we're sort of talking in abstracts. So it's great to see sort of the engagement so far across the interviews that we've had and what's being fed into the process.
Just a question. I know we had discussed putting out a press release, and I'm just wondering, we're on a pretty compressed timeline right now with these, the outreach for the people delegating, folks completing the survey before it closes. Are there opportunities that we are exploring or could explore as it relates to getting kind of more media attention on the task force and on the timelines as well?
Of course. So at the launch of the task force, at the launch of the Engage Hamilton website and sort of the official kickoff of the consultation period, my understanding is that the mayor's office and the city we've sent out and distributed a news release. So that first kind of media hit was out there. Since then and going into the end of the month, there is advertising that is taking place across digital channels, specifically, I think, on the SPEC, the Weather Network, and then a number of different areas. To try to raise awareness and direct folks onto the Engage Hamilton website. I think, definitely as we look over the course of the next couple of weeks, and I think next week when we sort of find ourselves at the halfway point of the open consultation, I think that'll be a good opportunity to take stock from the public-facing side of things in terms of where we are from an engagement perspective, and then look for some additional opportunities if possible. Maybe some additional media opportunities that could support trying to drive some additional awareness. Another piece that I think we've contemplated also is whether or not there's some other opportunities from like an email perspective or just a cold outreach perspective that we can get in front of some more audiences, not necessarily for the interviews, but for the Engage page itself to try to direct more attention. So that is something I think there could be a valuable conversation on as well in terms of reaching out to some of the third parties that maybe have supported the city in collecting this information before, or some of the more civically engaged organizations or neighborhood associations to make sure that they're well aware that this process is taking place and they have an opportunity to feed in.
I was just going to mention, so I think the media release was November 7th, just for specificity. Also, there was an article in the CBC yesterday covering it, and Jocelyn's let me know that I think we have 145 surveys completed so far, so some pretty decent numbers there.
Good. Okay, thank you for that update. I was curious, actually. So it's a good question, Madeline. I mean, we are not doing a report where we're expecting to, get 500,000 responses from across the city, but we want to make sure that our work is duly informed. And so if I take a look at our engagement activities, so we have our council interviews, we're confident in getting significant volume of information there. We have our city staff interviews, likewise, we're confident there. We have our focus groups, which are coming up yet, but we know we'll have some rich conversations at the focus group. So the question mark then is really around survey, written responses, and public delegations. It sounds actually like we do have some good momentum on the survey, so great to hear 145 responses and continuing till December 1st. So hopefully people have that deadline in our calendar, and that'll be material. The written submissions, we'll see what comes through. So I think delegations is kind of the question mark in terms of a channel for engagement. Obviously, we don't have anybody with us today. We have a bit of a moving number to see what happens on the 19th. Perhaps as a group, we want to see what happens on the 19th and determine if we want to open another date intentionally to welcome delegations, just based off if the campaign is kind of continuing to pick up momentum and it's still just coming to people's attention. So I know we're going to talk shortly anyways about the overall project timelines, but I can float that out to the group whether or not we might want to consider.
Hi, Wynn Baker, Stakeholder Relations and Strategic Initiative Specialist from the Mayor's Office. Really glad that you mentioned the possibility of a third sort of formal public delegation. I understanding that folks can come delegate at any time. I think from my standing, noticing that today was one of the 2 days and we don't have anyone joining us, I think probably just a little bit of tight timelines, people might not be aware. I think having a third day that we can identify if possible today. My concern about waiting to the 19th and knowing that we have a December 1st cutoff is it's just once again not giving people enough time to know about it. If we could maybe look at something today, deciding on a third formal day for public delegations, it gives us a lot more time to float that with community and to make folks aware of it. Just something that I'm glad you raised it because I was going to raise it myself.
Sure. Yeah. Well, what does everybody think? Seeing a lot of nods around the table, so maybe we'll take a look. We're almost coming to that section, but we can look at potentially getting another date in the calendar right now and just update any existing communications to reflect that date. Yeah, great. So we'll proceed with promoting the 19th and then likely have another day slated in there as well.
May I ask a question? May I ask a question about the surveys? Have you gotten any surveys from businesses or just residents?
I don't know that we have that information, like in terms of the delineation that's been done on them, but I think some of that analysis work can happen later. Right now, I just have like a tracker of the amount of surveys that have been collected. I don't know if we've gone through them all or.
Because I'd like to kind of get an update, and I'd like to maybe we push something out there about businesses, we want to hear from you too. Because I really think that's a thin line, and we really need to bolster that up. So I would suggest that if we can get some of that information, let us know a little earlier to can bolster it.
Oh, yeah, please go ahead, Jocelyn.
Good morning, everyone. Jocelyn Strutt, Senior Project Manager for Public Engagement. Pardon me. We don't know who has provided feedback through the survey. The survey is a publicly accessible survey. And we, through the questions, didn't specifically delineate whether it was an individual response or a response from a business owner.
I guess what I'm asking then in the future, when we get information from it, can we have those two pieces separate so we can see? One of the questions in the mayor's office there last week was talking about businesses to make sure that there's a strong voice out there to invite them to come in. And I agree with that. So I'm just saying whatever information we get about surveys, is that possible, Jocelyn?
Through the chair, is that to to specifically have a survey devoted to businesses?
No, we've asked businesses to come and also fill out the survey. There was some questions in the very beginning in the preamble that it included businesses. It was evident that we were asking local businesses as well to participate. So I was kind of curious, when we're finished collecting the surveys, will we have some idea of how many of those were businesses that applied?
Through the chair, I might ask Jesse from Enterprise, do you remember the discussion around finalizing those questions?
Yeah, of course. I can maybe take a stab at answering this question. And I think as we were developing all of the different pieces that fed into the final consultation, I think how we viewed the Engage the Engage page in that general survey was agnostic to whether or not it was a business interest or whether or not a community member. It was sort of just a way to have a level playing field for all of those voices to come forward and really put the emphasis more on community voices and community members, knowing that we had the focus groups and knowing that we had the one-on-one interviews that were being offered specifically to the business community to make sure that their insights and their insights were put in. I think the issues, the issue sets and the viewpoints of the business community on these issues and the general public are slightly different and nuanced in terms of how they interact with the city and what issues that they had. So I think the decision that we had made earlier on was that the online survey was a bit more general focused, and it was, even if it was a business owner, it was someone that lived in the city or worked in the city, and it was their purview. And then we had the separate one-on-one interviews, the focus groups, to really dive into the business perspective on how, where their frustrations, just because, I think from the public perspective, we're talking a lot more from a 50,000-foot view on this is what the city can be doing from a communications perspective and transparency perspective to show the city what's happening or show the city how decisions are made. Businesses, we find ourselves a little bit more in the weeds in terms of, how do permitting processes work and where's the transparency on decision making for bylaw or construction projects. So just knowing that there was sort of a lot more nuance to the business side, I think the decision was made to keep the Engage page a lot more broad and not collect that particular information because it didn't really impact the final report in any way, if that makes sense, because of how we were processing the data.
Yeah,
I hope that helps.
yeah. Thanks for reiterating, Justine. I think Joanne, you bring up a good point, which you want to keep in mind as we're going through the process, which is the diversity of perspectives of different groups are going to be different. So to your point, Jesse, we intentionally set out the focus groups, one-on-one interviews. And maybe one other thing we could do as well, as we kind of discuss our encouragement around delegations, is also make a point to those we're communicating with from these different groups that there also is an opportunity to come and delegate if they want to be kind of publicly representative of their group that they're part of, whether it's business or nonprofit. So maybe an encouragement to hear some voices live as well. Excellent. Thanks, Jay. So I'll just kind of transition into the last part because I think it'll kind of all bunch together in terms of discussing our overall logistics. So maybe I'll just put a little bit of kind of thoughts on the table in terms of where we go from here activity-wise and open the floor for conversation around it. So we obviously have the bulk of our engagement activities happening right now. For the most part, they've got timeframes, a few more activities to schedule. We can discuss shortly the potential date for another delegation. So with all that being said, our engagement activities, other than anything which for some reason spills over, I see them as concluding by mid-December. So within the next month, we'll have collected a whole bunch of information. Concurrent to that, obviously, we're doing some research as well of things that are not engagement related, but just best practices and things like that. So at that point, we're pretty much in a position to start report writing. I think we set ourselves a target of doing that until give or take mid-January, so about a month, acknowledging the holiday seasons in there, but just being very active and pulling that information together. It puts us in a position to have our draft report and hopefully a presentation to GAC Council in February. So just putting that out there on a table in terms of a work back schedule for consideration. Again, also for consideration, a potential other date for an additional meeting for delegations. And then in general, we can discuss meetings for December, January. I'm going to suggest probably a January meeting makes sense to kind of really catch up to where the process has brought us, maybe mid-late January, where we have a lot of elements pulled together for our report, and we can discuss if anything is sitting. And then as well, in December, if we are having a meeting for delegations, we can obviously attend to any other business that comes out at that point in time. So open the floor for any perspective on that general work plan, and as well, we can specifically talk about some of the dates.
I'll just mention I'm going to be more or less out of commission the last 2 weeks of December. I know that corresponds to the holidays, so we probably wouldn't be as active during that time, but won't be available from the 18th to actually probably about January 2nd.
Sounds like a nice holiday.
Combo of holiday followed by coming back to work.
Of course, yeah. Excellent. Well, let's do the first question first. Does that general timeline sound good for everybody? Yeah. Okay, schedule-wise, and to our partners as well in terms of working together on reports and everything like that? Okay, great. So with that being said, I'm hearing kind of agreed upon interest in potentially trying to get one more date in the calendar for delegations. To that suggestion, maybe we can look at calendars right now if we want to look at maybe first week of December. So it's still kind of generally within the period we've identified. Yep. I'm just going to maybe throw out a couple dates here. And do we have a perspective on the daytime or evenings? I'm guessing evenings are generally more accessible. Yeah.
I know that our second one on the 19th is an evening.
Yeah.
Given that this is a daytime one and we didn't get any takers, it might lend itself to being another evening one then for the third.
What do we think about the 3rd or 4th?
Sorry, I think just looking at evening commitments, the only one that week that works for me is the Monday is wide open. But
Or the 2nd?
I could do later evening on the Thursday, like 6:30 onward, but I have another hospital-based meeting prior.
How does the 2nd work for everybody?
Sorry, I can't do Monday. I'm out of town that day, but I am, yeah, Thursday would be possible.
Could I potentially make a suggestion? Is there capacity for us to do it the week prior? And my only thought is the minute the calendar goes from November to December, everybody's brain is going to transition to holidays, whether it's holiday parties, family get-togethers, everything else. So I don't think we will have any different success compared to today's meeting if we try to do this in the evening in December.
Yeah. My only question, I mean, if that's enough time to basically get word out, it's basically 1 week after next week's meeting, but we could potentially do it on the 26th.
I think it's great because it gives people maybe an option. I know when I had sent out the survey, a number of people, it was just not a right date, but just having a second option might work as well.
Like, even wondering like the 28th, a Thursday.
Yeah.
And if we can get the communications updated today and like, you know, council's meeting today, we have member statements, we can make a member statement today, like we can start to get it out on our channels as well. I think that would give us almost 2 weeks, 2 full weeks to let people know. So I think that's fine.
Okay, so we're looking at 26th or 28th?
We also have meetings during the day as well.
From 6 onward works for me on the 28th, and I'm more flexible on the 26th.
All right. So I'm hearing a lot of agreement of availability for 6 p.m. on the 28th. Oh, Jocelyn, please go ahead.
My apologies, through the chair. I just want to flag that there is another public meeting or a public open house scheduled November 26th and November 28th for urban boundary expansion. So I just I'm hesitant if there's a conflict between folks wanting to attend one of those versus Mayor's Task Force.
And those are at the same time as well, like in the evenings? Yeah.
The one on the 26th is from 12 till 9, so there's a large window there. And the one on the 28th is from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Just looking back, I would propose we try to avoid conflicting with those. I know my schedule was a barrier the following week, and we were hoping to fit something in that last week of November, but I'm just looking back and I can send my regrets to my commitment on December 3rd, if that works for everybody else.
Works for me. Works for me. Ash, how are you on the 3rd? And there are thoughts, comments from our group on December 3rd at 6?
Through the chair, can I also?
Yep.
I'm going to apologize profusely for this. There are a number of open houses for that project. Now, I think December 3rd is another one of them, but I think having the first 2 available and then a virtual open house for that project scheduled for December 5th, that December 3rd might be an acceptable date for the task force.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm hearing no major concerns with the 3rd. Okay, so we will proceed. Do we need a motion for the date, Madam Clerk, or you can just make
Just a
note?
quick one, please.
Okay, so I will quickly put a motion on the table to proceed with adding an additional meeting of our task force, in particular with the focus on and encouraging people to come delegate to our task force on Tuesday, December 3rd at 6 p.m. I'll ask for a seconder. Madeline, and all in favor? Okay, Mayor, motion carried. We are confirmed for our additional date. So thank you, everybody, for that. So, I mean, that resolves a December meeting and also an additional delegation opportunity. And also, we can also have a discussion right now as well about scheduling in our January meeting. I know we kind of floated out there, basically, you know, starting in early to mid-December, we should be able to start report writing. So I'm thinking that maybe a mid-January meeting would be an opportunity to kind of convene, just determine where that's at, discuss anything that's sitting with that part of the process. Looking at our typical scheduled, how about January the 15th at 10 a.m., which is a Wednesday? Okay, seeing nods. Any other concerns around the table?
If I can ask for clarification, Chair, sorry, what are we talking about right now?
Oh, sorry, our January meeting.
Thank you.
Yes. So just our general meeting.
So-
Yeah, all good.
And the date in January, sorry, did you just pick a date in January?
So I think we're aligning to Wednesday, January 15th at 10 a.m.
Thank you.
Quick check around the table if there's any flags or concerns with that date.
And is that at the usual start time of 10 a.m.? Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, I'm seeing support for that, so I'll put a formal motion on the table to also add a Mayor's Task Force meeting on January 15th, 2025 at 10 a.m., seconded by Tinashe. All in favor? Okay, motion carried. We have our meeting scheduled. So with that being said, that kind of takes us to the end of our work plan update, but I will open the floor for any questions, conversation, discussion about this item. Seems like we're all good with our plan. Okay. And Madam Clerk, we will do a motion to receive this report. Okay, so I'll put a motion on this table to receive our November 12th work plan update with all the notes that we've made throughout the course of this meeting. Seconded by Tinashe. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Our report is received. So following this, it introduces, with this kind of updated work plan, a need to extend formally our term. So Joanne, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, we did pass a motion for that extension of our term. Oh, sorry. So we'll have to pass a motion for that extension of the term. So I will start the motion. Extending the term of the Mayor's Task Force on Transparency, Access, and Accountability. Whereas the Mayor's Task Force on Transparency, Access, and Accountability was approved to meet for 1 year beginning in January 2024, whereas the Mayor's Task Force on Transparency, Access, Accountability has met on a regular basis throughout the year, and whereas the work of the task force continues and the members have requested that their term be extended to enable them to complete their work, therefore let it be resolved that the team of the Mayor's Task Force on Transparency, Access, and Accountability be extended to March 30th, 2025. We have a first. Madeline and Tinashe. You'll have to sign this too, sir.
I will, but for that.
All in favor? Any questions, comments?
I'll just make a comment that, make the quick comment that on our behalf and everybody else around the group, we're setting a firm date for ourselves to make sure our work is all duly delivered in that time frame. But I
Yes, sir.
feel confident that we will. So, great.
Very confident.
Okay, so I'll vote on that motion. All right, we are all in favor and extended until March 31st, 2025. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Moving towards the conclusion of our agenda, is there any other business today? Okay, very efficient group today. May I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn today's meeting? Moved by Tinashe, seconded by Joanne. We are all in favor. Meeting formally adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Madam Clerk, for all your help. All right, the fun begins. Can't wait. It's gonna be great.